A large model Showman'S engine, part 76, preparing the check valve ready to refit to the boiler, making some more gaskets using a different material and cutting the holes using hammer punches, fitting the O-rings and making some brass washers. Here's a shot of the modified check valve with its extension pipe, and looking at the modified check valve in this image I'm thinking maybe the pipe isn't long enough, but anyway I will try this, and if it isn't long enough I'll make a longer one. The whole point of this extension pipe that goes into the boiler is to make it so when the water is being delivered to the boiler from the injector, it's been delivered a bit lower down, hopefully into the water of the boiler rather than into the steam space. The injector does seem to work reasonably well when the boiler's full or almost full. It doesn't work so well when the level drops, and this is when you need the injector to work. I decided to fit some steam-grade silicone O-rings on the pipe where it goes into the boiler, and this should make a perfect seal. But I don't trust that. I'm going to make gaskets as well, but the gaskets need to be a slightly different design to the previous ones. In this image on the bench there are two O-rings, one is too big and one is just right. The O-rings fit around the copper pipe where it goes into the flange on the check valve, and I've fitted 3 of them in total. The last one is on the bench and it's the smaller diameter of the two. Normally I would use a handheld hole punch to punch the holes in the gasket, but for this job I'm going to use some hammer punchers. This one should punch a hole in the gasket 5/16 of an inch in diameter, which is perhaps a bit big for the stud holes, but at least it allows for a bit of movement. This is how I use hammer punchers. The gasket material is on top of a piece of mahogany, and I just hit the punch with a hammer and it punches a hole in the gasket. I bought this set of hammer punchers quite a while ago via the auction site that we all know and love, and to be honest, they're fairly terrible. The metal that they're made from is not hardened sufficiently. But the good news is, if you hit them hard enough with the hammer, they do actually punch the hole in the gasket. They don't give a particularly good finish to the holes, but at least they do punch the holes in the gasket material. You have to hit them quite hard though. The first bang with the hammer was insufficient. The second 2 took the punch all the way through the material. Once I punched the holes, I simply cut out the gasket with an old pair of scissors. This is a different gasket material to the type I normally use. The last lot of gaskets that I made were not very good at all, and they fell apart when I removed the check valve. This stuff's a lot better. I buy it from Blackgates Engineering. I'm pleased to say, even though I use these scissors for cutting a great variety of different materials, which includes sandpaper, brass sheet and copper wire, they're still quite sharp, a very good quality set. They were made a long time ago in the United Kingdom in a place called Sheffield, and believe it or not, the company is still in existence and still make them. I need to punch out the centre hole in the gasket slightly larger, so I'm using a slightly larger hammer punch, and here I'm just checking the size of the punch using an O-ring that I'm going to be fitting in this position. I made 2 gaskets in total, mainly to get a variety of different camera angles, and here I'm punching out the second gasket that I made with the hammer punch. As I mentioned previously, these are cheap hammer punchers and they don't really cut a very neat hole, but it's good enough. You can see here why I cut the centre hole, to allow the O-ring to protrude through and contact the boiler bush directly without having to be sat on top of a gasket. I think I will fit both of these gaskets, it won't do any harm. The next part of the job that I'm not going to show is a quick repaint of the check valve. As usual, I'm using Phoenix Precision paints, and this is LMS Crimson Lake Gloss. It's been in the tin quite a long time and it's a bit thick and gloopy, but as you can see, once I paint it onto the check valve, it looks fine. I've left the edge of the flange unpainted because it looks better. Before fitting the check valves back onto the traction engine, I need to do 2 things, or should I say 3 things. One is let the paint dry and then make 2 washers. Making these washers is a simple plain turning job. Face across the front, through with the centre drill, then drill through using a twist drill which is 1 imperial size larger than 1/4 inch. I don't want the washers to be a tight fit on the studs. Here I'm using a chamfering tool to remove the sharp edge. and when these washers are fitted on the studs to hold the check valve in place, the chamfered part will be uppermost. Here I'm parting off the first of the washers. It's a good idea to not push the parting tool too hard against parts that have a hole down the centre. If you're too heavy-handed, the part will drop off prematurely and you will have to use a pair of pliers to remove what's left of the metal on the part you're making. Here I'm making the second washer. I've used the chamfer tool again and I'm parting off. This is optional. To remove the sharp edge from the inner part of the washer, I touched it with a file, then I continued the parting operation all the way through. Some viewers may be wondering why I'm making fancy brass washers to hold the check valve to the boiler bush. They're a bit thicker and they actually look better than washers from my box of random washers. This clip shows the paint drying on the check valve, which some viewers will like, and it also shows the washers sat on the bench. If you look at the washers, it looks like the holes are different sizes, but they're not. I just haven't deburred them yet. The last thing I'm going to do in this video is just show this clip again of the length of the piece of copper pipe, and I really think maybe it is too short. Maybe I'll make one that's 3 inches long. I think I'll try it with the pipe at this length first, and if the injector still doesn't inject, I'll make a longer pipe. Don't forget that this experiment is for a number 8 injector, not the number 6 that was made for me by John Holroyd. I'm just curious to see whether I can get a number 8 injector to work with this arrangement. That's it for this episode. Stay safe, stay healthy, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.